Screw this, computer. Run the auto-targeting program and fire at will. Then buckle up, you binary bitch. And while I fight for my life, I present to no one the final episode of Season 1, The Neutral Zone. We start with Riker dropping his log. He says they're awaiting the return of Captain Picard. Why does he say it like that? Who was summoned to a starbase for another emergency conference. But who cares about that? There's an ancient space capsule from Earth drifting into the eons. The chance for historical research could be astounding here, and maybe at least an episode's worth of mystery for the show. Even Worf seems interested in preserving it by saying its current path will lead it into some binary stars, and he could just adjust its course with the tractor beam. But Riker says who cares? If we weren't here for Picard, we'd never have noticed. Let nature take its course. Riker's an idiot. Thank God Data speaks up about using the time waiting for Picard to investigate the craft, as the opportunity to study such an ancient craft is extremely rare. And why does he even have to say this? This all makes Riker look like a moron so they can spell it out for the audience, which only insults said audience. Riker sends Data and Worf to check it out, but to be back before Dad gets home. Beaming over, they find a cramped capsule with a minimal oxygen atmosphere and dingy colors of gray and rust. There's even scratches to the bulkhead paint, like it's old. But how the fuck did that happen to the interior of a craft in space? There's no exterior damage or any sign of anything puncturing the craft. It should be perfectly preserved from takeoff. That's not all that's wrong with this, it runs on solar power, which is impossible for interstellar travel. I'm assuming Data is just implying that it has that for when it's near a star, and he just didn't say that it runs on fucking radiation. The computer runs on disk drives though, and it's no longer operating. Worf runs into a bulkhead, assuming it would open like people at a rural Walmart. It literally has an industrial freezer handle, cause it's a giant cold storage for humans in cryosleep. They find 2 corpses and an empty, until Worf finds the survivor. And of course she's a blonde female. It's the 80s. What are you, gay? Epic titles. When we come back, Worf finds 2 more viables and asks if they were frozen for a trip somewhere. And Data wonders why they didn't have more sophisticated monitoring then. Without outside force, they'd have just been frozen forever. Picard is returning, so Data and Worf beam over with the 3 viable popsicles. Picard then briefs the bridge crew in the observation lounge that 2 Fed outposts along the neutral zone have been destroyed, and they've lost contact with another. Worf immediately says, Romulans, and Picard agrees, but they haven't interacted with the aliens for so long that no one on the ship currently knows anything about them that isn't rumor or conjecture. They've become boogeymen to the Feds. Regardless, they're sending out the Enterprise to investigate. The Romulans haven't been heard of for over 50 years, so why are they doing this now? Riker assumes a setup, and Picard agrees that they likely want to spar with the Feds to test how far both sides have come, but he also insists that they must try diplomacy. He'd rather outthink them than outfight them. Cut to Crusher, standing like Little Miss Sassafras, and telling Picard she unfroze the people Data brought over. And Picard's like, what are you talking about? For real? How did no one tell you yet? And why did she thaw them without the captain's approval? Oh my god. She says each of them needed minor med treatment. Well, minor now, but when frozen they were terminal. These people died from liver disease and heart failure, then were frozen, and then shot into space hoping the future would find and fix them. The odds of which are so mind-boggling it never would have worked, but this is the season of convenience for the writer's room. She says cryogenics were a fad in the late 20th century. So, like 30 years ago we were freezing people and blasting them into orbit? Must have missed that in the papers. Picard is annoyed Data even brought them over, as if Picard wouldn't have ordered the same. Picard argues that they were already dead. But how could Data know that? They looked viable and were easily revived. So yeah, by 1999 standards, they were dead, but by U-Magic standards, they were just another small ship of people to save like we've done 10 times already. This is conflict for conflict's sake. And why are Picard's lips so damn glossy? All that magic medicine and he still uses Carmex. Picard whines about them being alive, and having to now treat them as if they were living human beings. Yeah, 'cause they are, you just said that. It's really awkward dialogue with a what the hell motivation. Crusher sedated them, but they'll be awake soon. And again, Picard just sighs that he can't just send them back off into space. And I have no idea why he's acting like this. It doesn't even advance the plot for him to be so out of character. and the forced conflict is so unnecessary. They wake the blonde first, of course, and she takes one look at Worf's snickerhead and faints. Hardy har har. Data says the disk drives had the info dump on the popsicles. The blonde is Claire Raymond, age 35, homemaker. Must have been in some kind of construction work. Lols. She died of an embolism at 35, in front of her kids. Jesus. An older man is Ralph Oppenhaus, 58, financier. His heart sucked. Yo, isn't that the pedo teacher from Jason Takes Manhattan? The last guy had most of his data corrupted, but they still gathered he is L.Q. Sonny Clemens, and his occupation had something to do with music. He apparently greatly abused drugs, and Picard gets hella judgy about the man's choices to throw life away, then try to get it back again. One man's poison, Picard. To him, he may have been living his best life. What, we can't enjoy wine at a party now, or we hate our lives? Fuck off your high horse. You either a Frenchie with a fake British accent, or a Brit that got adopted and been lying since. Either way, Mr. Stonethrower. Picard tells Riker to keep them out of his way, and he was a dick about it. It's so fucking weird. Why does this bother him so much? It's insane, and no one else seems to care. Riker and Data catch the cryos up to speed, informing them it's, for them, the year 2364. They died, and their plan worked. Except Claire doesn't remember signing up for this. Her husband must have done it for her when she papped. Also, apparently they were supposed to stay in orbit of Earth, and really did only have solar panels, but somehow, fuck it. We learned most attempts at cryo failed for various reasons like power issues and never finding cures before the companies folded. So these guys are truly rare. How did they end up in interstellar orbit? I don't know, don't ask fucking questions. But you know they are alive and human beings, so again, what the hell, Picard? Oppenhaus wants to check his portfolio with the bank, and Riker stalls, maybe later. Meanwhile, Troy expo dumps on the Romulans. I know the Romulans, you know the Romulans, but for Grandma Mary in the back, they are related to the Vulcans but grew very different from them. They are a race of extremes and can be very violent. But they usually let you swing first. Back with the cryos, and Data says TV went extinct in 2040. Yeah, fucking right. Okay, fine. We better not see anyone enjoying teleprogramming, new or classic, in this franchise now. Sonny and Oppenhaus demand the captain, and Sonny wants Data to tag team some low-mileage pit wolfies with him. Riker then insults the audience's intelligence and maturity, and we cut to another team meeting. But they just repeat what we already know. What they're saying here isn't the point. The point of the scene is for Picard to be interrupted mid-brief by Oppenhaus, who's figured out the comm panel in their quarters. Ralph rants and raves and gives them a 1-star review on Yelp, down to comparing them to a much better ship that people should take next time they take a cruise. He demands a phone and a radio and a mountain of cocaine. Do you know what he paid for all this? Where's his lawyer? The Cardassian ship has retreated, Admiral. I still can't track the other 3. They all have cloaks and just show to attack before disappearing again. They're bleeding our shields, sir. And the shuttle pirate just blew up the Betazoids.
Yeah, but no one liked them anyways.
When we come back, Picard has had enough and goes to Oppenhaus, telling him not to touch anything again, to mind his place and fuck off. You think you're important? You think you matter? You don't even know which bloody way is up. Spoiler, there isn't an up. There are no banks, there's no capital-based society anymore, and you infantile morons are meaningless debris that I wasn't allowed to ignore. On that note, Troy goes to a sobbing Claire and uses her empath powers to deduce that she's sad. From Claire's perspective, she was washing soccer jerseys and then bam, woke up looking at Worf. Now her kids, her whole family, and everything she knew is gone, and she has her whole life to live without them. Wait till she finds out how long life expectancy is in the 24th century. All this because her husband likely put her on ice just to deal with his own grief. She looks up her family tree on a computer, and it hits her like a bag of bricks. Claire is the best of the 3 Cryos characters. For real, Oppenhaus is the most brash for sure. Sonny is just as loud and entertaining, but they are just there for basic comparisons of our present to this egalitarian future. Her story is actually philosophically deep and emotionally devastating. It invites a true thought experiment to what this would actually be like. Arriving near the neutral zone, they find Outpost Delta 05 completely gone, without a trace, not even rubble. So they set course for the nearest station, but elsewhere, Oppenhaus has decided he can no longer sit on his hands. Oh, and Data made Sonny a guitar. Arriving at Terra 9, Data reports everyone and everything is gone. Riker says the Romulans would likely be cloaked, and that he recommends Red Alert. Picard protests, so they agree on Yellow Alert. Worf says his sensors show a disturbance, and he thinks it's the Romulans. He and Riker coax Picard into striking first, which Picard correctly assumes was the Romulans' intentions. Oppenhaus enters the bridge, and is restrained as the Romulans decloak in front of the Enterprise, and this diplomatic game of chess comes to a head. These Romulans may have destroyed the outposts, and Worf reminds us Romulans killed his parents on Khitomer. Regardless, Picard hails them. He's answered by Commander Tabak, and bro looks just like this Cardassian asshat named Dukat. The Romulans are civil, but firm. They aren't afraid of war, but don't want to be tricked into one. Their outposts along the neutral zone have also been attacked. Picard offers to cooperate on this one issue, and the Romulans reluctantly agree, while posturing and sowing seeds for further conflict. Anyways, tone shift! Troy finds Claire's great-great-great-great-great-grandkid, who looks just like her dead husband somehow, and Claire's gonna go live with him. That's 5 years of therapy waiting to happen. Picard tells the other cryos he's moving them all to another ship. He has no time or patience for them, even though we're just gonna go to Pacifica after this. They set warp for credits, having solved or resolved really none of the episode's problems, or even figured the main one out. Engage. The episode was odd. There's a lot that happens out of character, and honestly for no reason. Actually, all of it happens for no reason. But I did enjoy the cryo people's stories a little tiny bit. Look, I'm trying to be nice. Real time. The Neutral Zone, originally airing on May 16, 1988, is the final episode of Star Trek The Next Generation's first season. Directed by James Conway and written by Maurice Hurley, this episode is notable for setting up major story arcs for future seasons, while also tackling the themes of human obsolescence, the clash of cultures, and the persistent tension between the Federation and the Romulan Empire. Despite its significance, the episode faced a challenging production process and marked a pivotal moment in the development of the Next Generation's overarching narrative. As the season finale, the episode was expected to be climactic and compelling, but the production process was fraught with difficulties, mainly due to an ongoing writer's strike that affected Hollywood during 1988. This strike severely limited the scope of the episode's script, preventing the writers from fully exploring the ambitious ideas that were originally intended for the episode. Hurley, a key figure in shaping the series during its first 2 seasons, intended for this episode to introduce the Borg, a major adversary that would later become one of the most iconic threats in the Trek universe. The Borg storyline was supposed to begin with mysterious disappearances of colonies on the edge of Federation space, and the Neutral Zone was originally meant to lay the groundwork for this. However, the writer's strike prevented the full realization of this plotline, resulting in a somewhat disjointed narrative, where the Romulan subplot and the discovery of 3 cryogenically frozen 20th century humans had to suffice as the episode's main focal points. Patrick Stewart's performance as Picard is typically stoic, as his character navigates both the diplomatic crisis with the Romulans and the strange predicament of dealing with humans from the past. His gravitas normally holds episodes together, but his character was almost assassinated with his odd and unexplainable behavior, and even he could not hold together these disparate plotlines. Jonathan Frakes' portrayal of Riker provides a steady presence, and his dry wit and easy command style shine as he is confronted with characters that are out of their time. Brent Spiner, as always, brings Data's inquisitive nature to the fore, especially in his interactions with the 20th century humans, providing moments of both humor and reflection on the nature of human progress. Mark Alimo played Romulan Commander Tabak. Alimo would later become a Trek icon as Gul Dukat on Deep Space Nine, but the Neutral Zone marks his first major appearance, but as a Romulan. His menacing yet controlled performance set the tone for future Romulan appearances. James L. Conway, a veteran Trek director, had the challenge to balance 2 very different storylines, the reintroduction of the Romulans as a formidable power, and the lighter, more comedic B-plot of the 20th century humans adjusting to the 24th century. Conway's direction creates a clear contrast between the 2 storylines, giving the Romulan scenes a tension-filled, high-stakes atmosphere, while the interactions with the frozen humans are played more for character exploration. The set design, particularly the Romulan warbird, is an important part of the episode. The warbird's interior emphasizes cold, harsh metallic lines, underscoring the militaristic and secretive nature of the Romulan Empire. This visual design plays into the broader trope of contrasting Federation openness with the secrecy and paranoia of the Romulans. Americans and Soviets. The reintroduction of the Romulans plays on Cold War themes, with the Romulans representing a secretive, potentially hostile power that the Federation must approach with caution. The Romulans' cryptic message at the end of the episode, "We are back," sets the stage for future conflicts and alliances. The frozen characters allow the episode to explore how 24th century humanity has evolved past issues like greed, status, and materialism. The contrast between the 20th century humans and the advanced society of the 24th century humans highlights themes of progress and obsolescence. Oppenhause's attempts to reclaim his wealth and influence in a world that no longer values them is a reflection of the anxieties of the 1980s, a period marked by rapid technological advancement and shifting economic realities. His character acts as a foil to Picard's calm, enlightened leadership, emphasizing how much society has changed and progressed. The episode also touches on the idea of obsolescence in terms of diplomacy and conflict, with the Romulans representing a dormant, yet potentially dangerous power. The thawed humans represent aspects of humanity the Federation has left behind. Though the neutral zone was constrained by the writer's strike and lacks the full impact it might have had if the Borg storyline had been included, it still lands as an episode in the show's early run. While some critics felt the episode's two plotlines were disconnected, myself included, others appreciated the thematic contrast between them. Over time, the neutral zone has gained recognition as an episode that helps. It reintroduced the Romulans. Ultimately, while it may not have delivered the grand finale that was initially intended, the neutral zone remains a key moment in Star Trek history, planting seeds for future storylines and reinforcing the show's hopeful vision for humanity's future.
Please, Captain Sedgwick, I appeal to your good nature. I recognize that you only wish to retain your freedom, and I am willing to make a deal with you in exchange for you ceasing this attack. You've won. Now I beg you to consider the lives of those aboard these vessels.
My good nature. Look around you. Look at all I've done. Look at who I stand with. I'm the bad guy. I've always been the bad guy. Oh, shit. He's gonna do it. Holy shit.